I'm thrilled that Rosemary's here. As you know, she's been in my life for quite some time. She's a member of my art team. She is an inspiration to me. We've had some incredible trips together. And as she said, she was that shy person in the back of the room that did not usually go into the front row. And this time she did. And long story short, Rosemary's been around the world with me. She's stood on stages with me. She's been on photo shoots with me. She's been in so many wonderful situations. And the most important thing of all, our friendship. That's the most important thing. And we just love cutting each other's hair. It's quite hysterical, actually. So today, what I wanted to do was share with you a story and build upon this story in future mentoring sessions. And I thought, what a good place to begin, the beginning and how that all started. So I said to Rosemary, let's just explore the first 3 years of my career and what that did and what my whole process. And I know that you were mentioning earlier that Roseanne's feeling a little stuck. So Roseanne, we dedicate this to you this evening, and we hope that it really is inspiring. Hi, Christopher. Do you prefer to be called Chris or Christopher? Great to have you here. And let's get started. Hi, Misty. So I thought we would start off with talking about where it all began, the London College of Fashion.
Yes. And, you know, I have to tell you, and guys, I had not seen the beautiful presentation. So I'm looking at it the first time like you guys. So Vivienne, tell me about your College of Fashion. That is absolutely different from the school that I went to. Mine was very dated. Yours is quite fabulous looking. So please share your journey.
Well, the most powerful thing that my mother said to me was, you must talk to a very dear friend of the family, Denise, who at that time, she was a secretary for a major celebrity. And I don't know whether any of you will even know him, but you should actually go to YouTube and check him out. Cliff Richards. He was very famous in the UK all those years ago. And so she was really the it girl. She was working in London. She was knowing all the places and the right things to do. She was very connected. And she said, Vivi, darling, whatever you do, go to the best of the best and don't dilly-dally. And before college, I was a dancer. I danced professionally. And I realized in one of the performances that I did that my career as a dancer had a very short life. And obviously, youth is a friend of a dancer. And as you age, and I was 19, and I thought I was 18. I thought I'm really old and my ballet career, my dancing career is over. And one of the things that I always found fascinating about being a performer is that the cast would come off of the street in their street clothes, go into their dressing rooms, change, hair, makeup, all that sort of stuff, costume. And they would step into this character. And I thought, wow, that's so powerful, how they've been transformed and how costume really, really did help you get into character. And so I thought, wow, that would be so interesting to learn how to be a makeup artist. And then I started to go down this sort of rabbit hole of all the different ideas. And I thought, well, I'm going to become a makeup artist for film, theater, television, whatever happens, right? And that was the beginning. So this friend of ours that said, Vivi, darling, great beginnings last a lifetime, and you've got to go to the best of the best. She introduced me to a lady, Chrissy Beveridge, who was at that time the head of the BBC. And the BBC has always been known for their period dramas, you know, the Jane Austen period pieces. And still to this day, if you check out the BBC and some of the incredible masterpiece productions that they do, they were very known for that. And she said, you go to the London College of Fashion and everything else will be taken care of. I thought, oh gosh, that sounds really exciting. She said, you will get a job at the BBC should you graduate from the London College of Fashion, because that's where they take their people from. So there's part of me, the dancer, that thinks, well, I'm still kind of connected to dance. I'll still be connected to the performing world, etc., etc. So I went to the London College of Fashion, and I went for my interview, and the college was known for, clearly, fashion. And this is them today, but back then they were producing fashion collections, etc. And they were known for their work in film and on stage, on the screen. That's what they were known for. So I go for my interview to see if I will be accepted. And I'm not accepted. And I'd never had rejection before in my life. Actually, I hadn't even at that point, had I been rejected by men? There must have been a few boys that broke my heart. There clearly must have been. Yeah, there must have been. I don't really remember though. I think that came later, the rejection of men. So anyway, I'm rejected. And she said, no, you don't have the hands of a hairdresser. So I'm looking at my hands thinking, what do hairdressers' hands look like? Because these are obviously not hairdressers' hands. And she said, no, you don't have enough qualifications to come to the London College of Fashion. You need to go away. And she said, if you want to come back here, you'll come back next year with all of these qualifications. So off I went. I thought, oh no, I was devastated. And so my mum and dad were my mentors and my encouragers. They said, well, listen, go and get the qualifications that you need and then go back. So I went, I studied for a year, got my qualifications, went back, and I was accepted. And that was the beginning of a 2-year program. I suppose by American standards, it would be classified as a bachelor's degree that I came out with. So I learned theatrical hair. I learned everyday hair. I learned how to make wigs. I learned the theatrical base. That is why the BBC took people at that time from the London College of Fashion. One of the most important things, and I didn't give it the merit that I did, unfortunately, was that we studied the history of hair. And we had a textbook, which was the first 5,000 years of hairdressing. You can still get that book. And we started with the Egyptians and we worked our way through. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be a long, long thing. But we were taught why fashion happened, either through a revolution, social change, economic change, celebrities, or in that time in the beginning, aristocrats, royalty, how they were the influencers, and how fashion and costuming said something about who you are and who you are not. And truthfully, it's no different than today. Your costume, your fashion is a status as to who you are, your values, what you want to be in the world and what you don't want to be in the world. So if one shows up sort of unkept, casual, relaxed, or that fabulous word lived in, which I think now is getting very lived out, and let me know in the chat whether you agree with that, that's a status symbol of I'm going to live undone, and that is it, right? So that was the world that we lived in, and it was kind of interesting. So from there, 2 years at the London College of Fashion, in my summer holiday, which was 6 weeks, I went to Vidal Sassoon's because, again, my same mentor said, well, Vivi, darling, you've got to be modern, and if you want to be modern, you've got to go to the only place in the world, which was Vidal Sassoon's.
Oh my goodness.
So I went there and I did a month's training, and it was so different to anything I was learning at college. I was like, and it was like Sassoon's were the powerhouses. They would have people before I joined queuing to get into Sassoon's. To get a job there was extremely difficult because they were the it guys, right? So I did my course there, and then somebody said to me, what are you doing when you graduate from college? I said, well, I'm going to the BBC. And they was like, okay. And they said, why? And I was very shy. I had long ginger hair, freckles, right? And they said, well, I think you'd do really well here at Sassoon's. I was like, really? And then they were gothic, purple, black hair, and everything was and there wasn't anything black on me. I didn't even wear black. I had no black clothes. I had everything that was just bright and colorful because I was ginger. Anyway, long story short, I said, no, I'm going to go to the BBC. So I go through my college training, and one of the ladies there was so intimidating. She said, my dear, I understand you just got engaged. And I said, yes. She said, well, no engagement, no marriage lasts at the BBC. So she said, don't even bother. And I'm like, but I'm in love with him. I'm 19 years old. I'm in love with my fiance. And she's telling me that no marriages last at the BBC.
Wow.
Or Rosemary, my marriage didn't last, but it wasn't because of the BBC. And she said, oh, and you have grand ideas about going to the BBC. Let me tell you, dear. She said, you will powder bald heads for at least a year. You'll work in the news department. And I'm thinking, I'm going to powder men's bald heads? How creepy is that, right? Because they sweat a lot, right? So you're powdering and powdering and powdering. And I thought, that's what the BBC's like. So meanwhile, Chrissy's saying to me, listen, you just get yourself in there. I will make sure. And I was very intimidated. I was intimidated by what I was told. But there's a very important story that I'm going to tell you right now, which is this. There's a difference between aptitude and attitude. And my aptitude for originality was strong. My aptitude for continuity, same thing over and over and over and over again, which can be the film, theater, TV world. Character hasn't changed, needs to be the same, needs to be the same, needs to be the same. I didn't have that gift. I didn't understand it. And when they said, well, you'll be doing that same look, for a year, I was like, I don't want to do that same look for a year. That's boring. So that was an aptitude. Now my attitude was not serving me. So Roseanne, you're saying about, feeling a little stuck. I was in my own way. It was like living my life with my handbrake on, because there were these opportunities that were in front of me, and I just had to do it afraid, believe that I could. And I was pretty scared. It was like, this is so strange and this is so alien. So anyway, long story short, I did not go to the BBC. I went to Vidal Sassoon. And when I was at Sassoon's, the type of work that was happening there were the strong geometric haircuts. So I remember the first time I did this hairstyle, I was so obsessed with the graduation in the back, and I was so looking at the detail. It went shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And by the time I was done with this poor lady, not the one you're looking at right now, but this lady, the graduation was above the occipital bone and she looked like Friar Tuck. Now, these were the days when people did not sue you. These were the days when people were very polite and lied to your face saying, oh, that's nice, darling. It will last a long time, this haircut, won't it? I mean, talk about polite versus you just butchered my head of hair. So I remember the first few times I did this, my protocol became go home and cry. My protocol became mother's going to pat you on the back and say, don't worry, darling, one day you'll be good, and just smile. And I started to believe my mother, actually. I started to believe that if I could just master this, I could one day be good, but it was not easy. So what have I said so far? The first thing is great beginnings last a lifetime. The second thing I've said is do it afraid. The second thing I have said is take the handbrake off of your life and go for it. And doing it afraid means nothing more than having courage. So those are the morals of those stories. So Rosemary knows the story here, don't you, Rosemary?
Yeah, yes. So Vivienne, I'm sure a lot of you who are out there right now, I mean, to hear all of this from somebody as highly as regarded as Vivienne, talking about even her struggles, I have to say that when I first started in the career and I would see people like Vivienne, I just thought they came into this world just being like perfect. They never had a mistake. They never had a failure. They never had an oops. They never had a tear. Like they just were brilliant. So for her to share this is so profound. And I'm sure that we can all relate in some fashion or shape. in regards to our first day at a salon where we have to go and have our first client, and she wants something like this picture. So,
Yes.
Vivienne, please talk about your journey with this haircut, because I know how I felt, even to this day.
Well, the step bob was a hot haircut. The artistic director who created this hairstyle was called Fumio, a beautiful Japanese gentleman. So imagine this, my friends. You're in the salon, and the salon houses 70 people. It has 3 floors. Next door is Gucci. You're on the most expensive street in London, and you're the IT salon. I've been through 2 years of college training. I have apprenticed at Sassoon's. I've taken all of my different tests. That's the story. The test story is an incredible story, which maybe we'll get to. So now I am taking a client for the very first time, and the step bob is like the hot haircut. So at Sassoon's, there was reception, and then there were artistic directors, the flanked, the left and the right of the exit to reception. So if the artistic directors did not like what they saw, they would stop the lady and say, "Madam, who did your hair?" And in this particular case, it was, "Madam, who did your hair?" And I was stood at the top of the stairs looking down at the art director who created this hairstyle as he's talking to this client. And I'm looking, thinking, oh no, because I was so nervous. My first client, I hid in a little tiny corner. If I could have been in the broom closet, I would have been in the broom closet. I couldn't bear anyone looking at me. So he looks up at me and he points to me and he beckons me down. And I just remember thinking, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. This is a disaster. I should just quit right now. And maybe I can run away with a circus because I like horses as well. So maybe I'll just run away with a circus. And so I get there and he says to me, "What do you call this?" And I'm thinking, he should know this by now. He's the one who created the hairstyle. It's a step bob, stupid man, right? But I didn't say that. I said, it's a step bob. And he said, "Really?" I went, "Well, it's slightly crooked step bob." He said, "You have to do this hairstyle again." And he said, "And when you're done with that, come and see me." So I took the guest back. I tried to fix it. I did as best as I could. The client left. It was hours, by the way. And when he says, "You cannot do clients." He says, "You have to go back into training." I was devastated because I'd spent so much time training and I really wanted to be good. I looked like a nerd. I was ginger. I was kind of nerdish. And it was like, how's this going to work? So at Sassoon's at that time, and I still think this is a great training, we went through everything from, we did dress work, believe it or not. Many people didn't know that about Sassoon training. We did dress work. We did obviously our hair cutting. We did barbering so that we were strong in our barbering skills. We would do, before we could go into staff training, which was 3 months, we had to do a test on classic hairstyles, which were 5 classic haircuts. Should we pass those, we went into staff training for another 3 months, and then we'd have to take an exam then to get onto the floor. So I'd already done a lot of training and it was pretty devastating. So I went and I did some more training. And then this was the next thing that I discovered, which was the importance of understanding fuel your fear and do it anyway, or let fear keep you hostage. So if you think about it, when you're frightened of something and you don't work through it, it keeps you hostage. So today you hear so much from hairdressers, "Oh, I'm scared to cut hair short." That fear will keep you hostage. And we live in an industry that's evolving all the time. We are driven by fashion. We are in an ever-changing industry, so we can never stand still. And if you think about long layered haircuts, balayage and ombre, which on the right person, stunning. On the wrong person, not a good idea. And everyone's gone on the bandwagon of that look, and it now looks dated. It doesn't look fresh anymore. So what's going to be the next trend? Hair cutting and clever creative placement. So don't, whatever that fear may be, and we all have it, you just do it afraid, right? Do it afraid.
Yep. Yep.
What are your thoughts about that, Rosemary?
Well, I think about, I'm reading here what Rosanna's talking about, that she wants to get into a place to get out of depression because she doesn't believe in herself anymore, and I can understand that because I remember working with you and going through the trainings that you had put me through. It pushed me. It pushed me. And you said something that I still remember to this day, so many years ago, Rosanna, and I hope that this reads to you. And it says, what is it that you're doing now that's working for you? Basically, you were saying, so how is that working for you? So in other words, I got so caught up in the emotional aspect of it, is how can I move forward if all I keep thinking about is how much am I feeling bad about me? And it's helped me a lot of times get through things, even though I'm scared. But it reminds me, and it says, the fear is only momentary if you allow it to be, because it does paralyze you from moving forward. So, just even listening to what you're saying and how you did it, and you had to go back into training and you worked so hard to just get to that point, and to find out that you had to, again, go back and do that. And it just showed that you were willing to believe in your faith of growth to overcome your fear of doing it, even if it was so hard to accept at the time. And that's what I'm getting. So
Yeah.
I would love to hear how you continue that journey through, because I know a lot of times working with you, there's been times that you have not felt your best and you had shown up and you would not even, no one would know other than me that you were not feeling your best, and you showed up and you were not certain if you were going to be able to quote unquote perform.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the big thing, isn't it? And Christopher's saying, Viv, I was scared as heck to do your 5 days at your studio. Oh, bless you. Yeah. But okay, so this is the way to really think. And I wish I'd known this sooner. If you're thinking about your business right now, no one gets out of bed in the morning and says, I want to lose a day. I want to make the least amount of money today. I want to fail today. Nobody gets out of bed like that. Yeah. But sometimes we have things in our subconscious mind that are limiting our potential. So if you think of your business right now, I challenge you, and actually I did a teaching on this a few mentors ago, which was the inversion thinking. So check it out. If you think about, for example, I'll give you my example. I'm right now developing an app, and it has the potential to be revolutionary. One of the things I'm going to be doing soon is writing out everything that I should do for it to fail. What are all the things I should do, write down, that will make this a failure? So if I hire a very poor marketing person, if I don't have, you can write all the lists of, okay, so my social media is terrible. I mean, I have great marketing and I have great social media. I have a wonderful team who works with me. I have my beautiful Patricia. I have my wonderful Jan. I have Maria. I've got some quality people, but what if they weren't that? And so if you look at the inversion way of reversing something, everything to make my app fail, and I write a list, insufficient funds, poor technology, the list goes on and on and on and on, right? So when you reverse something, so say, for example, you have a fear of cutting hair short, or you have a fear of, let's stay with cutting hair short. Then you write out the list. Well, then if I'm going to fear cutting hair short, then I must not study anything. I will just look at Pinterest and Instagram, which is like a 30-second, 15-second reel. And that clearly is inspiring, but that doesn't teach you how to do that hairstyle. Mm-hmm. So if you start to write all the things actually you shouldn't do, like not investing in yourself, not really learning your fundamentals, not practicing, not getting out that mannequin head, not showing up, all of those things, if you wrote the list, you'd be like, right, if I do all of those things, I will continue to feel the fear and I will fail. But the flip side of it is I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have my mentor. I'm going to practice. Even when I don't feel like it, I'm going to practice. That's the reverse of it. So going back to my story, what is interesting is that I went from being this nervous kid to one day standing on a stage for Vidal Sassoon. And I love this photograph because we're two poodles together. You know, they say the law of attraction, and they know that, you know, they say we often look like our clients, or our clients end up looking like us, right? We put our own hair on them. Clearly, not only did I put my hairstyle on this lovely lady, we're even wearing the same chandeliers. I mean, the earrings were almost the same too. So I'm literally like that. But when Sassoon's asked me to step on a stage and perform, I was like, what? I will stand on a stage. Now, in the beginning of this, I told you I had a dancing career. I knew how to dance on a stage. I didn't know how to talk. I was terrified. Dancers don't speak. Right? And I was like, oh my gosh. So my very first show, with no training on public speaking, with no training about stage other than I knew how to perform as a dancer, we're in Wembley Arena, and it's a big venue and the huge screens. So as I step onto the stage and I start cutting the hair, I see my hand on the screen and my hand is doing this. I am so scared. I can't keep my hand still to cut. And then I look up on the screen and I go, oh my gosh. And my freckles are popping out. Like, I mean, everything was so large, and I'm just going, oh, oh. And then they come to me and they say, and what are you doing? And I'm like, ah. And it was the first time I'd heard my voice through a microphone. And it was like, that feels really weird. So I got through the whole thing. I don't know how. I almost fell off the stage, which was ridiculous. And so what's the moral of this story? That by working hard and just going for it and practicing and taking the failure and taking the failure and taking the failure, but learning from the failure. So I think the big thing here that I want to share is never forget the lesson, but try and forget the pain, because the pain will keep you stuck and the pain will distort. But if you learn the lesson, it's amazing what can happen. So then I went rogue. Then I went absolutely bloody crazy. I started to do all this creative stuff. And bear in mind, I was the ginger nerd with the long red hair, but at Sassoon's, they cut it off and then it went shorter and shorter. And you saw I was clearly a poodle. But I started to just use my imagination and my creativity. And then, of course, being with Vidal and meeting him, this is years later. And we did a book signing together, and I developed a very close relationship with Vidal. And he actually, if you haven't seen the documentary with Vidal, Trevor Sorby, and Robert Labetta, it's called The Legends, and it's a pretty cool documentary. So all these years later, I call Vidal and I ask him if he will be in my documentary. Now, I had no experience in filmmaking. I had no comprehension about that whole world, but I just knew that I was blessed enough to be around the hair giants. And should I not share their story with everybody? Because surely there'll be questions that you would have that you'd love to ask. And even today, with celebrity and influence and so on, sometimes it's really hard to get to them and to be able to actually ask them the questions. So I thought if I could be the ambassador of hairdressers and ask them, then that would be amazing. Did the documentary, it was incredibly successful. And one day I was in my flat in New York, and I get a phone call and I say, hello. And he says, hello, Viv. I say, who's that? He said, it's Vidal. Who? Vidal Sassoon. Who's called my phone? Oh my gosh, it's Vidal Sassoon. And he said, I just wanted to let you know how proud I am and honored that I was in your film with two incredible hairdressers. And thank you. And it meant the world to me that my hero had called me. Now, I started off this little session today by saying I was this scared kid that went to London College of Fashion. I was this scared kid who went to Vidal Sassoon's. I was a scared kid who screwed up the very first client. I was a scared kid all the way through, but I just wanted to be good better than I wanted to be scared. And I worked hard because I had a ballet background. And in ballet, you push through the pain. In ballet, you do it over and over again. I had a work ethic that was so strong. Failure was not an option. And that's so to go from that. And then I remember when I was with Vidal, I just felt so, so special. Now, I told you I was terrified to stand on a stage. Years later, I'm in Barcelona at the Salon Business Awards, and in the front row is Vidal Sassoon, Horst, who was the founder of Aveda, Paula Kent Needham, who was the founder of Redken, and the list goes on. They were in the front row. I walked out onto the stage and I thought, oh my gosh, look at these guys that are there, these icons. And it was like, you can do it, Viv. You can do it. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And I did it. And I can't say it was easy, but it was pretty extraordinary. So what I do know is that to have experiences like this, they're worth their weight in gold. Now, I mentioned that I was scared of cutting hair and I wasn't very good. Years later, I've refined my skills and refined my skills. And then I'm thinking, I don't want to do it with scissors anymore. I want to do it with a razor. This haircut is 100% razor haircut. And when I was doing it, I had another wobbly, had another moment. Is it going to work? Is it going to work? And the irony is that it won the North American Hairdressing Awards in the Masters category. So it just goes to show you that had I stopped at every failure, I would not be talking to you today. My life would be very different. Could be better, could be worse, I don't know. But what I would say is, in summary of today, great beginnings last a lifetime. Learn from the best of the best of the best. Have mentors in your life because it's so important to have mentors. Believe in what's possible. And don't shortchange yourself because of what you're experiencing today. Because if you live your life with a handbrake on, you're missing so much. And every day is a blessing. One of the things I look at today is where is my, I've lived in a scarcity mindset as an entrepreneur because it's hard to be an entrepreneur. And the stats for those who succeed as an entrepreneur is so tiny. And those who are profitable as an entrepreneur is so tiny. So you get beaten up as an entrepreneur, right? And you can easily start thinking about scarcity and lack. And I have to say to myself, I have abundance. I have abundant love in my life. I have abundant friends. I have wonderful people that I'm training and coaching. How lucky am I to have that? And to get into that mindset of abundance versus lack and scarcity, because we are energy, an energy field, right? That lives in a physical body. But the energy, the law of attraction and what we put out there will come back. So I encourage you to feel the fear and do it anyway. Think about the abundance that is in your life right now. And think about what the next step will be in your career to elevate you from where you are. If I can help you and serve you, and if Rosemary can help and serve you, it would be an honor. It would be an absolute honor. And that's what we do now. So when people, feel intimidated around me or something like that, I always think, well, that's a bit silly because I'm so normal. I have mistakes and I have good days and I have bad days, right? So for those of you who want to see the next little chapter in the journey, we're going to carry on. So that I gave you the first 3 years, but we are going to go through more times in my career where there's incredible stories to be told. But for those of you who are not familiar with my world, my website's viviennemacinder.com. You can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. It's the same name. And that's where you can find me. And if you really would love to experience my education, you can actually go to our website. You can either book a call with one of our team members. You can also sign up for being a guest at one of my virtual workshops. We just had somebody this afternoon who came in and was a guest. So you can come in and see my amazing students, my amazing hairdressers working, and see that you're not alone. We're all going through the highs and the lows. And what I want you to always remember, just because someone may appear to have maybe more success than you, doesn't mean you can't have equal or more. Remember that nature is abundant and life is abundant. And it's a human trait to think small and little, but the universe doesn't think that way. So step into your greatness and don't do it alone. That's why we have these wonderful sessions, to inspire you and to help you on your way. So I want to thank you, Rosemary. What's your takeaway from today?
Well, I think that it's always been something that you have allowed me to understand, because if you didn't let me be okay with being afraid, but growing through the phase of being afraid, I would not be where I am today, so many years later.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so true. And Roseanne is asking whether I still live at Sassoon's. No, that will be the next story. How and why I left Sassoon's. It's a quite interesting story. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this today. Let us know in the chat if this was helpful, because our idea is to go from those first 3 years of my career, well, 4 years actually, college was 2, and then, no, 3 years of my career. And we're going to carry on going through, because there's stories there that are very profound. And I'll take you on a journey of learning and discovery. So I think that's beautiful. And as Christopher says, lack or abundance, make a choice. Yes, and I think that's so true. So thank you so much, my friends, for being here. Rosemary, thank you so much for being here. Let's go and cut each other's hair, right?
It's time.
It's time. Take care, guys, and bye for now.
Bye.